It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting at Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced, white-knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue. Get over to Joe's Karting today. Do yourself right with a little indoor kart racing. And January's back, so the Slick Track Nationals are back in action every Tuesday night at Joe's Karting.
Did that start this past Tuesday, or is it starting this Tuesday coming up? You know?
I think it's safe to assume that they were back in action last Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm sure Buddy got a hold of all the people that are, rocking and rolling weekly in that.
I know there's a lot of local dirt track drivers that love going down there and doing that because it's just a lot of fun. And so if you want to go down, you can go down and just be a spectator and watch. That's half the fun. But really, you want to get out there and actually race.
Well, don't they actually run some heat races and then the actual league takes a break and they allow the public to run? And yeah, they go back and forth.
Yeah,
so.
It's a good time. joeskarting.com for more tickets and information. More information about that and what you need to know. And there's a lot to know when you're going down and doing one of these karting events because it's not, your regular touristy town carts that go 8 miles an hour. There's actually some danger involved, so if you don't have a driver's license, you have to go through a safety course. All that information is listed on the website along with pricing, memberships, the benefits. I highly suggest getting a membership because you go once, you're going to be addicted, and you're going to probably go once a month to maybe 2 times a month, and it's well worth it when you start going that frequently.
Well, and I mean, it's a couple bucks. It's not like it's, $20 a month or something. I mean, it's
a great value and a lot of fun. joeskarting.com for more tickets and information. Big show lined up for you today. We're going to talk NASCAR news and notes. In turn number 1, Nick Dice of Tuxedo Park Raceway is going to join us in turn number 2. They have a new class that they're getting kicked off. You can find out more information about that coming up in turn number 2. You can also follow them on Facebook and find their website, racetuxedo.com. But Nick Dice is coming up in turn 2.
And with that new class, I mean, he's going to talk about it here in turn 2. He's got a real neat concept.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an opportunity for a lot of people who have had the itch to get back involved in racing, to do it for an affordable price. Nick's going to get us all the breakdowns coming up for the 2020 season coming up.
I was talking about the rental part.
Oh, yeah, there's
try
that
it
too.
out.
Absolutely.
You don't have to make the investment. Just go try it out.
Coming up in turn number 2, that's Nick Dice of Tuxedo Park Raceway. Despite what I say, it is Tuxedo Park Raceway. That's coming up in turn number 2. Turn number 3, NASCAR once again blew up social media with their dibbity-dumb, stupid ideas and guys screwing up my sport. We're going to talk about the new pit stop policies at select tracks for the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series coming up in 2020. That's going to be up in turn number 3. Slow down. Take a big deep breath. NASCAR may or may not be ruining the sport, but we're going to discuss it coming up in turn number 3. And then in turn number 4, we're going to have a nice long conversation about the Pick'ems contest. I had to chuckle a little bit because I thought, you know what, it's January 12th. Let's wait a couple more weeks to get the Pick'ems contest going and to get all that stuff organized. Then I thought, oh, wait a minute, it's January 12th, and it's literally, 5 weeks away from the start of the season for NASCAR? I mean, it seemed like it was just last week I was sitting in my basement packaging up all of the prizes for the 2019 contest, and here we're getting ready for the 2020 contest.
Yeah, I'm already getting all the emails from the several different fantasy leagues that I'm in with stuff, and then the ones that I'm in just a football league or something. I'm getting emails from them because they got the racing leagues too. But you get into, I'm going to say, more than one fantasy league per day of the week.
You might have a problem. You might have a problem. Is that what you're saying? So that's all coming up in today's show. Turn number 1, we're going to talk about a couple of NASCAR news and notes. One of the big ones, NASCAR continues to test the next-gen car. This location is going to be at Homestead, which used to be the site of Championship Day, of the final race, the Ford Championship weekend, but that has now moved to, now Phoenix Raceway. What was ISM Raceway. We'll expand on that coming up in just a little bit. But
the track in Arizona.
Right. This is why I hate naming rights. But anyways, that's a side story. So the next-gen car is going to be tested at Homestead. I think this is a great option for them to pick because Homestead, I've always liked this track for the fact that it's wide. And you could set your car up 2 or 3 different ways at this racetrack and still be fast.
Yeah, I don't look at it quite like that. I look at you got to set your car up to be fast, and then you've got to be able to adapt to a couple different lines.
Yeah, but it's going to be able to give them a lot of data, something more than I think Martinsville would have, because you're going to be able to really push where the tire wear is at. I mean, it's a nice, even, sweeping track.
They need to have tests at every track that they've got on the circuit, literally, just because of the tire and wheel change.
Yeah.
You know, every crew chief that's been around this sport for 1 year or 50 years, their tire notebook just went out the window with the new tire and wheel combination. So, like I said, we talked with Danny Stockman about that, or I did, down at Kansas Speedway last fall. And, and now he's out with Austin Dillon, but he's going to be crew chief in somewhere in the sport this next year. It's just a matter of when. But I think NASCAR is doing the right thing, is they haven't said what driver is going to test at Homestead, but they did say it will be a Toyota driver.
That's what I was going to say. They've had a Chevy driver in Austin Dillon, who was the first one to test. They had a Ford driver in Joey Logano, who was the second car to test, and now they're going to go with the Chevy driver.
Toyota driver.
I'm sorry, Toyota driver, just yet to be named.
Yeah, so I mean, they've given each brand, a driver, and so I'm going to guess that it's probably going to be a Gibbs driver.
Do you think this next gen car, they made a bunch of adjustments between Austin Dillon driving it and Joey Logano driving it, or was it basically the same car? Gut feeling. I mean, it did.
Oh, I know for a fact it was pretty much the same car, because they're going to give 3 or 4 tests before they start changing anything.
Yeah.
Because, they could have made a change after the first test, and then when they went to a different style track, it might have been a total joke.
Right.
So, yeah, they'll do the testing all with the same car, 3, 4, 5 tests probably, and then start making their adjustments.
We'll get you more information when more information is available for that test coming up at Homestead. Daniel Suarez says he is still working on a cup deal for 2020. You would think he would be close to it. I mean, this is still kind of a perplexing situation. If I take you back just a little bit, Daniel Suarez was the driver of the number 41 car at Stewart-Haas Racing. His contract was up for renewal. All of a sudden, Stewart-Haas Racing came out and said, Cole Custer is our driver for 2020. Daniel's out of a ride. And then Daniel kind of posted this very I wouldn't say maybe intimate's not the right word, but a candid video. You could tell he was very shocked by the decision, because he said he had a majority of the money they were needing for the sponsorship locked up. It just wasn't going to be available at the exact time they needed it. So we kind of speculated on the show a couple of weeks back that it kind of felt like this was a move Stewart-Haas Racing was looking for a reason to make.
Well, we'd been looking for them to take Cole Custer for the last couple of years.
Right.
So the fact that happened, to me, is not a surprise at all. It was just a matter of which car he was going to go in.
So I wonder if some of the sponsorship money that Daniel had lined up was contingent on the fact that he was behind a Stewart-Haas Racing car, and that's where maybe this deal is taking a little bit longer. Or, these deals do take time to come into place. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts that unfortunately, it's not like a, hey, do you want to come drive for me? Yeah, okay.
Well, if you're not bringing 36 races worth of money, then, if you're only bringing 20 or 24, 2/3 of the year, where's that other money coming from? Yeah, there's, 12.
If the team doesn't have those other races in their back pocket ready to go, then they got to go out and generate it, which, again, takes time.
Right.
We're talking about a lot of money still.
Especially to be in top-tier equipment.
Yeah.
To be in something, more, I mean, I'm not knocking Starcom, but more at the Starcom level right now, where they're still trying to work into the sport, or the Spire Motorsports level, doesn't take quite as much money. Obviously, they'd like to have a bunch more, but as he said, the money wasn't there right when they needed it or wanted it. That could be an issue, too. Maybe this money's not coming until the second half of the season.
Yeah, maybe. But
something's got to fund the thing for the first half of the season to get to the
That's
second
absolutely
half.
true. News out of Team Penske, they have decided to swap their 3 crew chiefs all around. Joey Logano will have Paul Wolfe as his new crew chief. Obviously, that's actually kind of a crazy, kind of a shocker story there, because Brad Keselowski and Paul Wolfe have always been so dominant together. Well, I guess it shouldn't say so dominant, but for a few years there, Paul Wolfe was the man to beat.
Yeah, I mean, they worked real well together. But you see this every now and then. They got kind of stagnant the second half of last year, and got to do some moving around and staying along with Penske that the captain done bought Brickyard.
Right. I wanted to continue that story just for finishing off. Todd Gordon will now be the crew chief for Ryan Blaney, and Jeremy Bolins will now be the crew chief for Brad Keselowski. I want to make sure I said that right, because often I get too far ahead of myself and I get the names all screwed up. So Paul Wolfe is now with Joey Logano. Todd Gordon is now with Ryan Blaney, and Jeremy Bolins is now with Brad Keselowski. This could be a great thing for these guys, because a lot of times you just need a personality shakeup, and things you can get a nice spark going. So it'll be interesting to see what Penske and those three cars can do for 2020.
Yeah, like I said, they Wolf and Brad K just might have got stagnant. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not beyond reason when they split up Chad Knaus and Jimmy Johnson. I mean, this has happened before in the past, that it's a formula that worked yesterday doesn't necessarily guarantee it's going to work today.
Right.
So sometimes you just got to make a little shakeup. Like Dirk had alluded to just a little bit there, Penske completes their purchase of Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And let's see.
As much as we wanted to see it disappear from the schedule, don't look for that anytime soon.
I don't think so either. So here we kind of talked about it in the first story with ISM Raceway and Phoenix Raceway. ISM had signed a multi-year deal with the ownership group for Phoenix Raceway to be the entitlement sponsor. And so they went through all this branding of changing it to ISM Raceway, which is something that it takes so much time to do, and it takes years for people to stop saying Phoenix Raceway and start saying ISM Raceway. There's still people out there that call it the Winston Cup. There's still people that call it the Nextel Cup. It's one of the big reasons why I'm excited about NASCAR getting away from that sponsorship tier, because now I can just call it the NASCAR Cup Series and I don't have to worry about taking care of a sponsor. Well, this is kind of one of those things. ISM and Phoenix have restructured their agreement that they will no longer be the title sponsor, but they will still be involved in a major aspect of Phoenix Raceway.
So it'll be Phoenix Raceway brought to you by ISM? I mean, what's it going to be?
I don't think ISM is going to have anything to do with the name, other than they're still going to provide sponsorship dollars and opportunities for fans at the racetrack.
And be on the souvenir cups.
Track president said that fans will not see any noticeable difference when they visit Phoenix Raceway for 2020. So back to Phoenix Raceway. I can change all of my notes to make sure I say Phoenix Raceway rather than ISM Raceway, which once again, that just irritates the bejesus out of me when they do that. But it is what it is. Whatever. Complaint, what they say. Wish in one hand. See which one fills up first. All right, that's going to do it for us in turn number 1. Nick Dice, finally coming in the studio. Going to have a conversation about Tuxedo Park Raceway for 2020. Last time we talked to Nick, he was in Branson and had just lost his cell phone, so he had to communicate via his wife's cell phone. He was telling us a fun story off the air, which we won't air for his you're correct, for his protection of the lengths he went to find his phone, but it was all for naught. But Nick's going to come up in turn number 2 and is going to talk to us about the new class that is coming to Tuxedo Park Raceway in 2020 and how you can get involved in it. Great opportunity for anybody that wants to maybe dip their toe and just find out what this kart racing community is like and get the bug. Because I guarantee you, if you have any issues with maybe an Amazon addiction, because that's me, go get a kart and start being a race car driver. You won't have money for an Amazon addiction anymore. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in turn number 2.
Powder coating your chassis seems like a luxury until you spill nearly anything on it and watch as the paint drips away. That's when you'll wonder why you didn't take advantage of Red Oak Fabrication's high-quality, durable, and beautiful powder coating for just $275 on a bare chassis. From simple base colors to glitter-line neon colors, a powder-coated chassis from Red Oak Fabrication will give you a much more durable surface that your sponsors will love seeing in Victory Lane. Email Jordan F. at redoakfabrication.com to book your time.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you White Knuckle Racing by the River bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Welcome back into the front stretch, rolling into turn number 2, and it's time to sit down with a local promoter and big fan of dirt racing, Nick Dice, joining us on the show now. Nick, the promoter, headman at Tuxedo Raceway Park, had a good start to the season, but that damn Mother Nature.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever say we had a good start. It was pretty consistent throughout the entire year. We had the 2 floods early, May and March, and it just never really went away. So, the rain just killed us. The ground never dried. So that I think I talked to you guys in July, and it just kind of continued actually all the way through October. I think we were able to sneak in. I think we got 8 or 9 races in, which is pretty low.
Of how many did you have on the schedule?
Oh, I'm shooting.
Probably double that.
Yeah, shooting from the hip. I bet we were on 14. So I think we snuck in, and then we actually got a little creative at the end of the year where we just tried to really just shoehorn in a couple races. We did a couple double races. We did 2 races in one day. We tried to sneak one in on a Sunday where we typically wouldn't have, and so really even that 6 or 6 to 7 that we got in really isn't even accurate when you talk about the real schedule. We just got crushed the entire year.
And that's hard on a promoter, too, because a lot of times this back gate pays for the race operation. And when you do a double header, you don't necessarily get that back gate as much.
Karting is all back gate.
Yeah.
So, we spent so much time just getting the pits ready, because that's really one of our biggest issues is drainage down there. So we spent so much time just getting the pits ready, and that's fuel. We have other costs that go into running an event and whatnot, and we'd spend all this time, and then it would rain. It would rain on Friday night or Saturday morning, and just given the fact that the area never dried throughout the year, we were done. And so typically you get a quarter or a half inch of rain, which is really nothing when you have a nice dry summer. It was just too much for us. That's
what I was always surprised. I think that's what I'm going to take away from 2019 was, and obviously the floods are going to be the big story, but what kind of struck me attached to the floods a little bit is that, there was so much water for so long that it just had nowhere to go. I mean, we would get routine rainfalls, and I was, for a guy who just started a garden this year, I had a huge garden. It was a perfect year to be a gardener. It's going to be interesting to see over the next couple of years when we have a dry spell what I end up doing. But we literally, I think we went one time maybe about a month without rain, but it would just consistently rain once a week, and the water had nowhere to go.
Yeah, we have low spots in the pits that never dried. And the funny thing is I was moving some equipment around over Thanksgiving, and I went out to the track and everything's bone dry.
Now it's dry.
And when it's 30 degrees outside, but that's life.
I was crazy to find. I heard a news report here in Omaha. Just I want to say it was just before Thanksgiving that for the first time since March, the Missouri River was below floodplain. Wow. Yeah. For the first, that's insane to me that there's that much water that runs down that river that it was at floodplain from March to second week of November, maybe third week of November.
Well, and it's going to be back there pretty quick. I mean, the snow and whatnot they've already got up in through Montana and Idaho and North Dakota and everything's going to end up down here. It's going to be a mess come spring again, especially along the Missouri. Whether or not it's going to come down the Platte like it did, a whole nother story.
Well, we're talking about your guys' season, and we're hoping and praying for a much drier year next year. And, the way it goes in the Midwest, we may get like an inch of rain all summer next year, and then we're going to be complaining that we don't have enough water for stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
It never seems to kind of find that right middle ground anymore. It's always one extreme or the other. But happy with 2019, what you could get in. I'm sure you guys learned quite a bit.
Yeah, I think we made a lot of progress on track preparation. I'll be honest, 2018 didn't really know a lot on how to prepare a track. It ended up being a lot more difficult than what I expected. I think I talked about that last time. But when Mother Nature cooperated and we got to execute our plan, we had some pretty decent racing surfaces. We still have some opportunities when it comes to that last second rain. Ironically, when it rains at the last minute, and maybe some people are more familiar with this, but when it rains at the last minute, you often end up with a dusty racetrack. So that's one of the things that we were battling, and we'll, as we get more races and iterations and whatnot, we expect that we're going to start to resolve some of those issues that we have. But for the most part, we were able to run through our shows a little bit better. The timing has always been an opportunity for us, being new as well. So we were able to get a little bit better on our timing. But again, there's always opportunity improvement. We certainly have some going forward into 2020.
You always should.
Yeah.
I mean, you should always have a list of things that you could do better. Just to improve as a person, you got to find things that you know you could do a little bit better.
Well,
and
it could be like our radio show. I mean, we came out perfect the first time.
That's a good point.
I mean,
that's a good point.
I don't
You
understand.
guys set a pretty high bar.
Our bar was on the ground. That's where our bar was.
We literally did set the bar, and that's not saying that we set it high.
We had no stands to put it on. We just put it on the ground.
Nick Dice of Tuxedo Raceway Park. Am I saying that right? There's so many different
TPR,
raceways.
Tuxedo Park Raceway.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I said that backwards. There's always the speedways, the raceways, the motorsports, and I lose them in the translation every once in a while.
Who wears the tuxedo? The flagman, the race director.
I don't know. I'll wear a tuxedo T-shirt around every once in a while. But you kind of talk around the people in the city, and they're not really even sure where it came from.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Where did that name come from?
I don't know. I guarantee you, there's a story somewhere, and maybe out of this discussion we're having on the radio, maybe we'll find out. But
I bet Stan Caesar knows it.
Well, it's possible.
Because that's always a safe bet.
But I know, back in the day, that park was extremely popular in the area with dances and where the racetrack is, there actually was a lake at one time.
Oh, really?
So as the
July.
No kidding. Yeah. This year there was
just 6 months ago.
Too soon.
Yeah. So it was a popular area back in the day. So I'm sure somebody knows.
You guys have been hard at work. You and your team have been hard at work coming up with a new idea. You've got a new plan that you're announcing a new class that's going to be coming to TRP.
Yeah. So TPR.
I'm writing it down.
No, that's okay. One of the things that karting numbers and participation have really suffered in recent years, and it's kind of interesting that not all racing has been that way. So we've gotten together and we've tried to kind of figure out, why are people staying away, and we think several of the reasons have to do with just right now for somebody new starting off, the expense is high, and then not only that, the learning curve is very high as well. So if you've been around it a long time, it's kind of some of the stuff that we take for granted. But so what we're looking at and what we're trying to do is we're trying to kind of start a low-cost karting class. So what we're looking to do in 2020 is start a class that's based upon the Harbor Freight Predator platform. So the 212cc engine, the 6.5 horsepower, a $99 motor. We've tried it in several places. We tried it actually in 2019, I would say with limited success. We kind of looked at some of the models that they're running around the entire United States, and it's actually taking off all over the country. We've kind of mirrored our rules that we're going to go with in 2020 off of what some of the stuff that's been more successful around the country. And what we actually did was at the indoor kart race, the Turkey Chase, over Thanksgiving, we fielded 20 carts. I'm sorry, we fielded 12 carts, and they were race ready. We kind of brought in our all-star crew of drivers, which actually ended up being volunteers, and I think we had 14 racers total, so we had a few extra people that were outside of our carts that came to support the class.
I was number 15. I was the 15th one that was invited. Just missed the cut. Anyways.
I had to turn them down. I was busy.
And what happened is it was fantastic racing.
Yeah.
We had late model guys. We had sprint car guys. I listened to your guys' interview with you and Stan's interview with Jack on Sunday.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that in his 2019 highlights he didn't talk about running a go-kart at the Turkey Chase. He left that one out. So
that's only because we recorded it well before then. Yeah. I'm not sure he knew he was going to be racing it then.
So
that was the timing thing.
But it was awesome to see, Jack Dover, Stu Snyder was out there, Cade Higday, both the bowlers. We had, and I'm leaving people out, but we had modified guys. I think all of them had some kind of racing experience. But what we found is that these carts were anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 fully race ready, and these guys were on top of each other. And what I mean by that is the racing was fantastic.
Yeah.
And, with little effort, we were able to kind of go back to the pits, and we were just kind of able to shoot the breeze between the races and whatnot.
So how much were those carts worth after these guys got out of them?
Did they increase or decrease in value?
So that's the funny thing. So they had another indoor race this last weekend at the Lancaster Event Center. And,
the Nebraska Kart Shootout, right?
Nebraska Kart Shootout. Yeah. And we actually just kind of decided to step away from that because we had so much luck previously with we didn't get anything torn up. Indoor racing is a little bit of a different animal, and the Nebraska Kart Shootout was a fantastic event. We felt pretty lucky walking away from the turkey chase, and it went so well that we decided, you know what, let's not double down here.
You sound like you made the right decision. Like whenever I go to the casino and I've won a little bit of money, as I'm leaving, I'm like, you know what, let's keep trying my luck. And then before I know it, there goes my money.
Yeah,
I don't have any money left.
I was going to say, I saw some of the videos from the turkey chase with Jack Dover Racing had posted, and there were some carts going around, so they were getting a little bit physical in them. But with those guys racing and the egos and whatnot that go on there, I just wondered if there was any damage, and you've certified that there's not. So
it was a fantastic group of drivers, and they were awesome. All of them were, and just the attitude and the mentality that they had. I mean, it was almost kind of like a fraternity of guys that just went out and then they let it rip. They wanted to win, but it was good racing, and it accomplished exactly what we set out to accomplish. A promoter from the Newton kart track actually saw that event and decided that they were going to change their rules to match that particular class.
Oh, awesome.
We've probably added, I would say 5 to 7 people right now have already committed to running the class, and we expect that to double. So
is it going to come up then with several weight breaks and stuff, heavy, light, all that
typically
kind of stuff?
What happens in this area is we always settle on the heavy weight. So we'll just be in that heavy weight. But what this is going to allow us to do is it's going to allow us to kind of get some of those carts out that are sitting in people's garage that may be obsolete back onto the racetrack. The cart that Jack Dover was driving was almost 18 years old.
Good land.
So the funny thing about that cart that he was driving, I was in college when that cart was manufactured, and I assembled it. So I know because I assembled every one of that particular model of that year. So it was kind of ironic that he was rolling around there, and I think he got on Sunday he was in 4th place behind I think a 2018 cart and a 2017 cart. So he's out there with a 17, 18-year-old cart, and he's just as fast.
Yeah.
So that's where we believe that some of this stuff that people have labeled obsolete anymore, they can bring it up out of the garage for a very reasonable price, and they're out there racing and being competitive again.
Are you going to put up a set of tire rules or something?
Yep.
Because I was going to say, I think tires are probably the most expensive thing in the carts.
Yeah, so the expense from the tires really comes in their how long they last, and then the chemicals that you put to them. And I'm sure that's going to be a little foreign to everybody that's listening out there, but buying the tire is only part of the battle. I would say 2/3 of the battle is the toxic chemical that you swipe on it,
and the saran wrap that you wrap it with.
Yeah. So we're actually the group out at Precise, which obviously they've moved on now, but the group out at Precise and Great Plains Hoosier Tires helped us get ready for this race, and we definitely couldn't have done it without them, and we're very grateful to Chris Archer and his team out there. But they helped us get going, and we're going to run a Hoosier tire, and we're going to spec out the compound and the sizes that they can run on the 4 corners. And it's a treaded tire, and it looks like it's going to hold up. It's a tire that has been tried in this area in other racing series, and it looks like it's going to work out really well for us. We're pretty excited about it.
So for me, wanting to get involved in this, what would you say your best estimate for what it would cost me if I wanted to get involved?
Sounds like he's got some for sale for about $1,500 there.
No, my stuff's not for sale. We are going to do a rental program this year, so we are going to allow people to come out and try it out. But really, it depends on how patient you are. I throw these prices out to people. I say, hey, look, you can do this for $1,250, and they say, no, there's no way. I'll line them up all day and let them talk to people that are spending $1,250. If you're wanting to get something a little bit newer and you're not quite as maybe a little bit more impatient, then you may spend $1,500-$1,600. But if you're spending over that, then this probably isn't the class for you.
Right.
So there's plenty of inventory out there if you're patient to get in for around. I plan on spending $1,400.
And I'm a big fan of the offering the rental carts, because I the only other time I've seen it, my short history of being done, was Roger rented out a lot of Race Savers that first year to 2 years that they got the class going at Eagle, and I heard a figure like those first half season, he had half the cars rented out.
Yeah.
That He'd built them, he'd put them all together, he'd put the investment into them, and it's a good way to show the community, I believe in this class. I've invested the money in it. Come rent it, come try it out, and then if you like it, you can buy it.
Yeah, and I would say it's extremely similar to that. I don't know what it takes to field multiple sprint cars, but I could tell you 12 carts is enough for me.
Yeah.
But that being said, I mean, we're going to keep them out there. I'm actually not selling them because what I found is that when I sell them, they don't come back to our racetrack. So I want people to come out and experience that. And then if people are looking, we'll help them find something. The stuff's out there, and I field 5 or 6 inquiries a week about people looking for equipment, and we try to align them with something that can get them out to the racetrack.
Well, also having those carts like that, you can set up some stuff that I haven't seen done in a long, long time that used to be a staple. I mean, once or twice a summer at every dirt track I'd ever been to growing up was some type of celebrity race.
Yeah, that has come up, and I think that would be huge. The media will cover this kind of stuff if we make it worth their while, and I don't think that we've done enough to do that. That's a great point.
They used to have a gal on, I think she was on Channel 3 News back in the day, that was very voluptuous, and I don't remember they did it with Pro-Ams out at Sunset, and there was like 63 people lined up to help her strap in. It was quite the fight.
Well, I remember John Nicely. Always doing stuff with race
John
cars.
Nicely. There was Bob Knudsen. He used to write the articles for the World Herald. You had Otis and Diver.
Oh yeah.
Off of Z92, we're out doing them. They did them a couple times. I mean, you'd get anybody and anybody. You'd end up with a 12-car field, and they just go out and run 5 laps. And there did get a couple motors blown up in the last year that they did it, and I think that kind of put the kibosh on it.
That'll put it into it real quick.
That'll do it.
That'll do it real quick. Nick Dice of Tuxedo Park Raceway. Hey!
Yes, sir. Well done.
Finally.
Don't say it again. Don't ruin your streak.
Done. Talk about 2020. What do you guys have in the works? Things you can confirm so far for the season
opener, etc.
Yeah, so we're going to align with a series in Kansas that's going to allow us to bring a few more racers to our area. So we're going to run this Predator thing that we've been talking about for the last few minutes here. Actually, we're going to align with we're going to have track races in Kansas City, Waukene, which is south of the Holdridge area, and then Wellington, which is in the Wichita area. So we'll have an 8-race series along with those guys, and then obviously we'll be doing the typical cage kart stuff that's in the area. We're working with the tracks in the area because there's some opportunities for all of us to align, so and make it a little bit easier for our racers. Yeah. And so we're doing some of that actually over the next few weeks, and so looking to just build that program there and just figuring out whatever we can do to get people out to the racetrack. And just anybody that has any questions or is looking to figure out how to get into racing, we just want them to reach out to us, and we'll get them pointed in the right direction.
What's the best way to reach out to you?
So we're on Facebook, Tuxedo Park Raceway, and then we have our website, which is racetuxedo.com.
Okay.
And again, just I think I've got my cell phone numbers on there, and obviously you can message us through any of those avenues, and they all end up at the same place. There's a few of us that actually will get those messages, but you'll hear from somebody.
All right, buddy. Appreciate you coming in. Is there anything you needed to cover that we haven't gotten to yet?
No, I think that's it. I appreciate it.
Find out more, Tuxedo Park Raceway on Facebook, racetuxedo.com. You can also message Nick anytime. You'll be glad to get back to him. Appreciate you coming on, man. It's great to have you in the studio.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you.
We're going to take a break. We'll be back on the front stretch.
We all have that coworker that runs their mouth off at how great they are. They shot a 5 under par, 95-mile-an-hour fastball, bench press 375, brah. Wouldn't you love to shut them up by schooling them at Joe's Karting? Council Bluffs' premier indoor karting track, professionally designed so each corner is your opportunity to embarrass your coworker. Call Buddy for your next company outing at 712-256-5278. Joe's Karting, white knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue next to AMC 17.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole of the front stretch and the home of MAV TV, featuring action from the Lucas Oil Late Model Series.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Located on Mid-America Drive in Council Bluffs.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch, rolling into turn number 3, and let's talk about this big announcement from NASCAR. We kind of felt like this was coming because NASCAR threw out a tester balloon a couple of weeks ago with the media kind of talking about NASCAR may move to this, and now this is the next phase. They've adjusted the pit stop procedure only at select tracks. So for the Xfinity Series, you're going to see it at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, both Iowa Speedway races, and then their trip to Road America. For the Gander Outdoor RV Truck Series, it's going to be at the Iowa Speedway race, the Worldwide Technology Raceway, and Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. So those are the tracks. These are the only tracks that this system will be in place, and basically they are taking what they have done in the NASCAR K&N series and they are adopting it to these. It's going to be kind of a timed stop rather than a at full speed stop. So obviously the pit stop procedure now is caution comes out, field gets stacked back up, leaders come to pit road, and it's a race off pit road. That's one of the exciting things about pit stops right now is that it's a race off pit road. Do you take 2 tires? Do you take 4 tires? Do you gas only and get back out there? You know, it's a big strategy question for crew chiefs to be able to figure that out, especially late in the race. At these races and under this system, Dirk, you kind of brought it up when you were first looking at it. It doesn't define if it's going to be green flag stops. Also, if this is just going to be under the stage finishes or caution flags.
Well, I'd seen a post on Facebook, and I tried to find some information on it. I opened up what I thought was an article, which ended up not being an article, so I couldn't read about it there. So I did a little digging, but I couldn't find this information you said you got off of NASCAR's site.
So there's going to be a format to this. So at the stage breaks, there's going to be a full pit stop cycle. 2 opportunities to pit. The team roster will consist of 8 crew members. This is kind of normal. So far we have this. The pit crew will consist, the over-the-wall crew will consist of 4 team members to service the car, along with 1 fueler and then 1 driver assist. So, again, this is not going to be a timed pit stop. This is not going to be under a clock. So these guys aren't going to be doing this ballet like we've been seeing. I was really confused. I want to back up just a little bit because I didn't pay close enough attention to the K&N series. And when we got to watch them at Iowa Speedway, when they did this version of it, they all came down pit road and stopped. And I'm like, wait, what is going on? Because these guys just leisurely, I think it was like a 2.5 minute or a 3 minute clock. And they had 3 minutes to make the adjustments that they were allowed to make during those times. Whether during this pit stop they're only allowed to make 2 tire changes, they can make 4 tire changes or whatever.
Well, then, right here, it says only 2 tires per stop, so they got to come back in if they want to change 4 tires.
Road courses will be able to make 4 tire changes, but again, it's going to be at specific tracks. And the reason is because those tires are going to wear much more evenly, so they want to make sure it's a safety thing. But we'll just take Iowa Speedway, for instance. When they come down, they'll all line up exactly how they came off the track. They'll have their time to make their adjustments, and they'll probably shut the engines off and just let them kind of cool down a little bit and save a little bit of fuel maybe. There would be some penalties if they all of a sudden decided, no, I'm doing a 4 tire change. Then you got to go to the rear of the field. I think 4 tire changes is a 2-lap penalty. So that would be a costly penalty. NASCAR is also going to take into consideration if you were involved in the accident. So if you were involved in the accident and you spun around, they're going to allow you to change those tires, but you're going to head to the back of the field when you come back off pit road. So this whole pit stop procedure idea, I think the what I've heard from them talking about over the last year or two is a money-saving operation. So it's the restriction of not giving them the option of 2 tires or 4 tires is definitely a money-saving operation, because if they can only come down and make 2 tires, they're going to save a lot of tires, a big tire bill.
Well, in all honesty, I don't see the tire bill dropping a whole bunch. What I do see is the amount of times that teams are going to save on paying employees, like for pit practice.
Yeah. It's not going to be a huge save this year, because this year, the 2020 season, the majority of the races are still going to be a timed pit stop. You're still going to have that ballet and that race to get off pit road first. This is just, let's see how it goes at these tracks, at these races. If fans react well to it. If the teams like it, then we'll implement it through the rest of the races. But for now, let's just try it here. It's a future cost saver, absolutely.
I was interested, when they only named 3 tracks here, which means it'll be both races at Iowa Speedway.
Correct. They did mention, Yep. So we're kind of covering the pit stop procedures for NASCAR. It's something new that they announced earlier this week. Thoughts on it? Do you like this? Is it really going to matter?
My guess is it's going to be done this year at these total of 7 races between those 2 classes, and then it's going to disappear. Mine
exactly. I think this is one of the aspects of NASCAR that I don't mind them trying it, but quite frankly, I wish they weren't trying it in Iowa. I like the pit stops. I mean, that's kind of part of the excitement of being down on pit road, is that the roar of it coming in, these guys jumping over the wall and going at it. I get that they're trying anything and everything to save money. I'm all about trying something, and maybe I'm wrong. Well, maybe this will still be an exciting thing, that this will cause some unexpected excitement that we're not foreseeing, maybe on the track under green flag. Who knows? Maybe it will actually create some better racing. I have no idea. Yeah, I have no problem with NASCAR trying it, but I'm with you. I think this is a one and done.
Well, it was just a couple of years ago again on the Truck Series. They tried the no gas and the no tires can be changed. You can't fuel and change tires on the same pit stop. Yeah, and they went a half a season and threw it out the window. They didn't even run the whole season with the rule.
And what was they had the caution clock for a while. That's now gone. I mean, it was an interesting idea, but didn't really pan out. So they'll take. Don't worry, they have to try these things every once in a while, because I think the fact that they, under the previous ownership, it's the same ownership, but it's a different guy at the helm. But they didn't try anything new. They just kept doing the same thing over and over again. And now they're at least trying some new things, and they're testing it out in the lower series. I'm completely with you. I think it's a noble idea. It works in the K&N series. Maybe it'll be something that they'll leave with the Truck Series, because they gotta get really aggressive to reining that cost in for that series. But I don't imagine it being something that sticks with Xfinity and Cup.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even going to be tried in Cup.
No,
it'll never get to that level.
They're going to have to find ways, a direction, or ways to save money other avenues.
Right, but as far as, like I said, it's going to be, kind of the gimmick of 2020 type deal. Like I said, I'll give them kudos for trying something. Everybody on Facebook, they just need to go to heat races and have a feature. And, some guy says, they won't do that because of damage to cars in heat races. They do it at Eldora for the trucks. So that's not the issue. The issue is, if you got a 40-car field and only 38 cars show up, why run heat races? You're all in the feature.
Yeah. My argument against heat races, I'm all about, again, I just said it, I'm all about trying new things. But my argument against heat races was that if heat races were the solution, dirt tracks would be packed. And they are in specials. They're not most of the time.
Right.
I don't think heat races are the answer for NASCAR, because it's not the answer for dirt track. Right. And vice versa, I don't think you can pull some things out of NASCAR and help dirt track. I think while the two are very similar, there are aspects that don't translate well.
You could pull the money out of NASCAR and help the dirt track.
That's a good point. Who's got the money we could pull out of NASCAR? Who's got that laying around? That's going to do it for us in turn number 3. We're going to take a break. We'll come back, wrap it all up in turn number 4. We're going to talk Pick'ems contest, because,
already?
It's time to talk Pick'ems contest. Brought to you by Rick Havenridge of Wealth Partners. Find out more about what Rick can do for you, rickhavenridgeadvice.com. We're going to take a break. We'll be back on the front stretch.
Don't be that guy on the work site freezing his lug nuts off, wondering why he never went to Red Oak Fabrication for incredibly warm and working man-proof gear. From simple work gloves, boots, or hats to full jackets and coveralls, Carhartt from Red Oak Fabrication will keep you warm during the brisk winter months for a lot less than those big city prices. Find them online at redoakfabrication.com/Carhartt. Like their Facebook page for monthly specials, and stop by in person on the corner of 3rd Street and East Grimes in Red Oak, Iowa.
Has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you white knuckle racing by the river bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch. Turn number 4 brought to you by Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of the Front Stretch. Get over to the Lube today for all the great food. By the way, I finally got to go my first trip since the Homestead viewing party. Went over to Quaker Steak and Lube, had dinner with Sarah's grandparents, and I got to be the little menu pro. They're like, so what's good here? And I'm like, well, let me tell you.
This page,
Yeah.
this page.
What are you?
This page.
And what would you like today? Would you like wings? Because that's Arizona Ranch. That's my favorite sauce. Little spice, ranchy flavor. It's absolutely delicious. Would you like a burger? Well, that's the El Camino. And they're all staring at me like, this guy's got a problem.
And this big tube filled with delicious Sam Adams.
Right. So, anyways, the menu has remained the same. They would update the menu just a little bit every 2 to 3 months. I think that's probably due to come out, I would say probably February or March. Maybe when we go down for the Daytona party, they'll have the new menu out. But just kind of updated items and some of their old favorites. But absolutely, if you ever go to Quaker Steak and Lube, get the jacked up BLT. I had it again. I had it for lunch earlier this week because I only ate half the sandwich just to be good, and then I had the other half, so I got to enjoy it twice. Oh my God, it's such a good sandwich.
That's disgusting.
I hope that sandwich never leaves. They used to have this, I can't remember the name of it, but it was basically like a giant piece of, it was a burger, but it was on Texas toast, and it had this sauce on top of it. I want to say it was called the Texas Two-Step or something. I can't remember what it was called, but they had this for a year and a half, and my God, it was so juicy. I mean, it also helped that it was Texas toast, so it was just drowned in butter. So it wasn't very healthy for you, but that was the most amazing burger, and I cried a little bit when they took it off the menu. So I'm telling you, I've been telling you guys about this jacked up BLT. You've had it.
Oh yeah, several times.
Absolutely delicious. Make sure you get over to Quaker Steak and Lube and do it soon because that menu is going to get updated here shortly with spring to come. As if winter has come yet, but spring is coming. We haven't even had a winter. Anyways, I shouldn't say anything.
I'm not sure about what Mother Nature's doing. She's in and out of rehab.
Somebody said to me, I'm not saying anything about the not having the winter because then it's going to come on full force and it's going to make up for it all in about a 3-week period.
If I wake up tomorrow and there's a foot of snow, Dan, I'm putting a hit out on you.
You got to cancel the first two. But anyways, so get over to Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of the Front Stretch. Big thank you to those guys. And by the way, even though it's still warm out, there is some great gear down at Red Oak Fabrication. We forgot to credit them during the Nick Dice interview earlier today earlier in the show. So redoakfabrication.com/Carhartt. Great merchandise available down there. And if you're any dirt track drivers that are getting your carts ready to go, basic price $275 for a bare frame. If you got to have any sandblasting or reworking done, it's going to be a little bit more. But there's going to be a price difference from a late model chassis to a go-kart chassis because there's quite a bit less metal on a go-kart chassis. So tell Jordan what you're looking for. You can send him an email, jordanf@redoakfabrication.com. Big thank you to those guys along with Quaker Steak and Lube for all the support in 2019 and continued support throughout 2020. I wanted to talk a little bit about Rick Havenridge's Pick'ems contest. We don't have the exact rules in place, but I've been conversing with a couple of the fans that I have their cell phones, and I don't see any kind of a reason to make any adjustments to the rules. I think you guys can expect to see pretty much the exact same thing.
Yeah, I mean, we did have to adjust last year the tiebreaker.
Yep. Was that last year or 2 years ago? That was 2 years ago with the October race.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
But we adjusted the rules for last year.
And we're talking, and that was for one of the 5-week contests. If you're new to the show, which we've had a bunch of people that have came on in the last couple of months that have become fans of the show, we do a NASCAR Fantasy League, and it's based off the Cup Series Championship driver points. It's really, really simple. You pick the driver that you think is going to do best in that race. Now, the complications come in the fact that you can only pick a driver 3 times in the entire season. And that does include the regular season and the postseason. So you always want to save about 5 or 6 good picks for that postseason. Whether that be 2 Kyle Busch picks, 2 Martin Truex Jr. picks, could be 3 Joey Logano picks. Save them for the last 10 races so that way you've got some good picks. How many times have we come down to the end of the season and the regular season champion walks into the postseason and you're like, man, they've had a great year. They've led for the last 18 races. And then you look down their picks and you go, oh, no, they don't have a Harvick. They don't have a Truex. They don't have a Busch.
They didn't have anybody in the top 10 or in the playoffs.
This wasn't just this year. This has happened about 3 years in a row that they used all of their good picks to get into the playoffs. and then they didn't have any good picks during the playoffs. Now, they're still locked into the top 16, and they got some pretty awesome prizes because of it, but they didn't get to win that championship that they led for so long.
And it's happened to several people, just including yours truly here, that had several top picks for the 10-race playoffs, but ended up 17th.
It's who was it? Brandon, who works out at Eagle Raceway with me on Saturday nights. He would message me every once in a while, and he's like, "All right, I'm sitting like 12th in the points, and we got 4 races left. What should I do?" And I'm like, I think you're okay. As long as it's not a crazy race, we don't have a bunch of big drivers get knocked out early in the race. Just take it easy. Save a couple of the big drivers. Pick some 10th to 15th place cars. You should be okay. And then next week, he's like, "Oh my God, I'm back to 15th. I got to use one of my big ones." So Brandon was very much like that too, where it's a very delicate balance. You got to make sure that you're saving the right picks, but you're not saving too many. The couple of years earlier that I did it, I ran into the issue that I didn't think far enough ahead. Shocker there for you, that I saved like 13 good picks, but there's only 10 races. And you get down to the end of the season, and I did all the saving, and then I'm like, oh no, I don't have enough races to use all these. I should be higher in the points because I could have used them during the regular season.
Yeah, but you also might have picked one of those drivers the day that they hit the wall and finished 37th.
Very true. So the way the contest works, it's really, really simple. It's best to get signed up at Daytona, before the Daytona 500. You pick the driver you think is going to do best, and then you get their championship driver points for that race. If they sweep the stages and they win the race, you've got 60 points. You do that 2 weeks in a row, you're sitting at 120 points. You do that at Charlotte, you've got 70 points on the day because there's 3 stages and the stage finish.
And then you got to hope there's no penalties levied against your driver, because that's that big old minus out of that 60 or 50 or whatever you have.
We had this happen several years ago, and this is the example we always use. When Matt Kenseth failed inspection, post-race inspection at Kansas, he had won the race, and I believe it was before the stage racing, before the stage points, but he had won the race, and I think it ended up being like a 50-point penalty that he was hit with. 50-point championship driver penalty. There's championship owner penalty points. Those don't factor into this contest, just the championship driver points. And so everybody who took Matt Kenseth that day, I think they walked away. I'm trying to remember the point structure back then.
I think back then you ended up with 45 with the win.
Yeah.
It was like 40 points and then a 5-point bonus for winning.
Yeah, yep. So they actually ended up losing 5 points. Well, then they went through the appeal process, and the penalty was reduced to 35, so they still walked away with 10 points, but they'd used a Matt Kenseth pick. They'd only received 10 points out of it because of the penalty. So that is always the risk of, you love it when drivers push the envelope and crew chiefs push the envelope, but do they push it just a little bit too far, and all of a sudden they get hit with a penalty, and you get hit on Tuesday or Wednesday when that penalty comes out.
And then we'll have I'm assuming, if we work everything out as we have the last couple of years, we will have 3 of the 5-week contests.
Yep. See no issue with that.
A day. And everybody that has done that has thoroughly enjoyed it.
The reason why we started that was because you could see early on when we originally started this contest that there's going to be people, the leader, the person who led the most last year, I think they led for like 21 straight races. So if we base the contest off of the season-long contest, we base these big prizes that we get off of, it's going to be the same person winning every time. So instead, we set same format, same point structure, same risk of the penalties. We just do it in a 5-week contest. And surprisingly and kind of conveniently, it works out perfectly that 5-week contests seem to shake themselves out very well. It's really close for the first 3 races. You start to see a little bit of a separation in race number 4, and then race 5 happens. And sometimes the leader falls way back because of whatever happened. Who knows, penalties or just a bad day at the racetrack. And 5th jumps on up, or 10th jumps to 3rd, or whatever it be.
Well, I mean, we've had people like, I think the far back is after 1 week or after 2 weeks at like 58th and still getting the top 5.
Yeah.
So they got some tickets to the race. So
absolutely. So those are the 5-week contests. Coming back to the season-long contest. So we talked about the championship driver points, picking your driver. You can only pick the driver once or 3 times in the entire season. And we have the season split up into 2 different seasons. The first one is the regular season, the 26 races, just like NASCAR has set up. Except we don't do it to where win and you're into the playoffs. We do it strictly by the top 16 in points qualify for our playoffs, which is a 10-race playoff. It's very similar to, I think it was the 2009 NASCAR points system was the last time it was like that. No, earlier than that. It was 2000. It was later than that. It was 2012, 13, somewhere around there is when they started making big changes. But anyways, so there's the 26 initial races, and all you're trying to do is be into the top 16. Wins only matter once you qualify for the playoffs. And picking this is where kind of the website we use is a little bit confusing because there's a driver win and there's a team win. We don't use team wins. We use driver wins. So make sure when you're looking at your stats, you're looking at D wins. That's driver wins. And that's if the driver won the race. Team wins, just for clarification, is the contestants that scored the most points that day. Very well may have been that driver finished third on the day, but they won stage 1 and won stage 2, and nobody took the winner of the race.
Well, no, somebody took the winner of the race, but he wasn't even in the top 10 on the
Maybe that's
stages.
it. Yeah, maybe that's it. So that's team wins, and there's several of those throughout each race weekend. We take driver wins only. For every driver win that you pick in the regular season, you get 3 bonus playoff points going into the playoffs. So you could start at 2012 because you had 4 wins on the year. That's not the correct math. No, that is the correct math because 4 times 3 is 12.
Even in Iowa.
So that's how, and then we re-rack them for the final 10 races, and then it's boys have at it, and whoever can win the contest, the most points at the end of the year. We have a couple of tiebreakers. We have actually more tiebreakers than we used to have, what you talked about earlier, and that's the season-long contest. Kind of mirroring that off the 5-week contests, we do those to win the Crewman for a Day contests at Iowa Speedway and Kansas Speedway, and then we've had some requests to try to do something with the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series, maybe with the Knoxville Nationals. We're still kind of working it out. We want to offer more of these 5-week contests because they're really fun for people, because especially with attention span today, it's really tough to do a 36-week fantasy contest. Like you talked about at the beginning of the show, if you're doing a fantasy league for like baseball, it's really hard to pay attention to all 162 games.
Well, and like I said, I've had seasons where in fantasy football I might have 10 different teams in 10 different leagues. Mm-hmm. And that'll keep you busy.
Yeah.
And every once in a while you forget to put a team together to whatever. So you shoot yourself in the foot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what can happen here is you forget to make your pick. They moved up the race start time so you didn't get a pick in. It'll hurt you in the long run, but, in one sense, you might not have wasted a good pick.
Right. Yeah, that's always the people have always emailed me about, like, oh, man, I can't believe I missed that pick. And like you said, I'm like, yeah, but you don't know if this was the race you would have picked so-and-so.
They got 4 points.
Right. So, and that's kind of one aspect that a lot of people don't think about, going back to this point structure with this race. Taking drivers like, I keep saying Kevin Harvick or Kyle Busch or Martin Truex Jr. or Brad Keselowski, when you use him at a bigger race or a race that they had a bad day, it's not just that you only got 4 points that day, but on top of that, now you got one less pick you can use with that driver. And think back to the days when Jimmy Johnson was a 5-6 win consistent type of driver. If you had a day where you picked him and he had a bad day, blew a tire, finished 35th on the day, not only is that's just a bad points day, but now you've missed out on having another pick for Jimmy Johnson later on in the year.
Yeah, it can bite you. But again, it's all fun. It's free.
Right.
Thanks to Rick.
Absolutely. Thanks to Rick Havenridge of Wealth Partners. Find out more about what Rick could do for you, rickhavenridgeadvice.com.
And you talk about a bragging rights trophy.
Oh, yeah. This trophy is awesome, which reminds me, I better get it ordered. We're only a few weeks away from the contest starting again. I got to get that ordered so we can give it away at the Daytona 500 party at Quaker Steak and Lube.
But you've got an armchair driver with a helmet on and a steering wheel in his hands and his recliner.
Think of it.
Awesome.
It reminds me of the THX logo. Remember those old cassette THX where the guy is sitting kind of hunched down in the recliner, and all of the sound is coming at him, so it's kind of blowing. That's exactly what it looks like. The recliner's kind of
flapping in the breeze,
right? And he's kind of leaned back in the chair like he's in a go-kart. So it's a really, really cool trophy, and we got to say a big thank you to Regal Awards for that trophy, and Rick for buying the trophy for us also. But it's a really cool cool one. It's not a traveling trophy. That stays with you permanently.
So you can beat your spouse over the head if they're in the contest too.
And that was, 2 years ago? Our series champion was Susan Blazina. No, Barb Blazina. Barb is her name. Barb won over her husband, Jim Blazina, who is a sport mod driver at I-80 Speedway and throughout the area. Races the number 3 and a former sponsor of this show. But
and let him know it.
Yeah, she did. She had a great victory speech at the Daytona 500 party. I remember that was awesome. So we want to once again, big thank you to Rick Havenridge of Wealth Partners. Find out what Rick can do for you. Rick, havenridgeadvice.com. He not only brings us the season-long contest, but also the 5-week contest, and that's kind of the same format to where we do the same point structure, the same possibility of being hit with penalties, but it's in a 5-week period, and you only get to pick a driver once during that contest, and those pop up throughout the year. And once again, we do 3 of them, but we're looking to try to add maybe a 4th if we can. Sometimes the calendar just doesn't line up quite right, but those are really quick, easy contests that even if you maybe doing an entire season is just not your thing, then you could do just these 3 5-week contests. Actually, we do a 4th one because we do one for Quaker Steak and Lube.
Right at the end of the year, correct. We
forgot all about that 4th one, but
card.
for the Homestead party. So that's all coming up. If you want to get involved in this, you're more than welcome to. Just send us an email, frontstretchradio@gmail.com. I'll get you into a group, and then once we get the website set up, because I know he's still putting tweaks on the next the coding for the website for this year. Hasn't fully released the schedules yet, or hasn't fully released the ability to be able to create the contest on the website. So once that gets done, then we'll send out an email to the group and we'll get you guys all signed up. Once again, it's absolutely free to participate. And think about some of the contest prizes that we just sent out. I mean, I sat in my basement for a couple hours each night for about 3 weeks, going through all the contests, emailing all the contestants and saying, here's the list of prizes. Send me 5 items in this list that you want. Most people got their first pick, which was maybe it was a Jimmy Owens autographed hero card, or Sheldon Hoddenchild autographed hero card, Brad Sweet autographed hero card, or we had Landon Castle autographed Pentex baseball caps, hats. The Iowa Speedway sign that we had. There was just some awesome
JJ
prizes.
Signed that sign.
So many things that we had available. I think we had over 300 items in the prize vault, and I got rid of a good chunk of them because we had so many people in the contest this year. So in order to win a prize, just stay in the contest all season long. I know I gave out prizes up to, I want to say it was 54th this year. After that, they'd stopped picking. So if you don't stay consistently picking, you don't get a prize. But otherwise, just keep picking. Who cares if you're sitting back there? They still got a great prize. Brad Keselowski, one of his Heroes cards finally the last one went in the mid-30s to low 40s. So it lasted for a lot longer than I expected it to.
And we've already got a Brendan Gaughan hero card for next year's pile of giveaways. So, and we try to get a couple tires, Goodyear tires at the races, but we ended up giving those away usually somewhere else, so we don't have to ship them in an envelope.
That would have been an expensive shipping fee. FrontStretchRadio@gmail.com if you guys want to get more information on that. Big thank you to everybody that listened to the show today. We're going to get it posted up on YouTube at 9 a.m., and we've got a special that we are adding. We forgot to talk about it earlier in the show. We had a special guest on from Bulls Gap Raceway in Tennessee, and it's not really something that would pertain to our area, but he's a new promoter, a new owner of the racetrack, so we wanted to get him on the show and promote it because we know that's kind of a popular track. Yeah, so we wanted to get him on, so that's going to be an exclusive for the podcast.
He's a buddy of a buddy type thing. Danny Rollins, who was Bobby Hamilton's crew chief in the truck series, so a championship-winning NASCAR crew chief. Is a friend of mine, and we still chat and converse on Facebook, and he mentioned one day, hey, I got a buddy that just bought a racetrack and started promoting it, looking for some help. And I explained to him that, our signal doesn't get clear out there, but we went ahead and got him on and talked to him, and it's a very good interview. Some interesting perspective on there, but we're just going to go ahead and add it to the YouTube side and I will contact them back there so they can do a little promotion and, pass it around on their Facebook pages and everything else, and see that, they're trying to keep a track alive.
That's and it's a very difficult thing to do this time of this day and age. But for any of you listening on air, that's going to do it for us today. For those of you that are listening on the podcast, hang around after the break. We've got another interview still to come. I want to say a big thank you once again to Nick Dice for joining us in turn number 3, and big thanks to Dirk for coming around and doing it for another week. It's always fun. Thank you to Joe's Karting, Quaker Steak and Lube, the Red Oak Fabrication, and Rick Havenridge for all of their support with supporting the Front Stretch. If you guys are out and about and you happen to see those businesses, please take care of them and let them know the Front Stretch sent you, so that way they know that you heard about them through us, and they can give us a little love back as they do every week. I want to say a big thank you once again to everybody for listening. For Dirk Houston, I'm Dan Taylor. This has been the Front Stretch presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590.
The official watering hole of the Front Stretch has you covered any day of the week with the best wings, great burgers, and amazing steaks. Each weekday from 4 to 6 is happy hour, featuring $1 off draft and well drinks plus $4 Luberitas. Mondays are kids' night. Tuesdays are all-you-can-eat wings for $12.95, and the lube even delivers to the Council Bluffs area. Like Quaker Steak and Lube Council Bluffs on Facebook for a full list of weekly events.
Get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Mid-America Drive, Council Bluffs.
Hey, look at that. You're sitting on your couch playing Halo, Madden, or NASCAR while your friends are at Joe's Karting. Each lap is an adrenaline-filled, heart-pumping, white-knuckle experience that you can only get at the Metro's largest indoor karting track. Eco-friendly Honda engines rip you around the professionally designed road course at breakneck speeds. Can you reach the 14-second lap bracket? There's only one way to find out. Put the controller down and get to Joe's Karting, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs next to Quaker Steak and Lube.
This has been the Front Stretch Radio Show, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. To contact Dan or Dirk, find them on Facebook at The Front Stretch or email them at frontstretch590@gmail.com. If you missed any part of today's show or want to hear a previous show, subscribe to the Joe's Karting YouTube page, where you can find almost every Front Stretch show.